Hello, everybody. Welcome to JAIIB CAIIB English Medium. Today, in this particular session, we will be talking about the IFS subject, Indian Economy and Indian Financial System. And specifically, we will be discussing unit number 39, that is leasing and hire purchase. This target series is dedicated for all those serious aspirants who want to crack this examination of JIIB in November 2025 only. And today, we will be discussing about the difference between the finance lease and the contract hire. How these two terms are different. When we talk about these two terms, normally we know the later part of both of these terms. The lease, mostly being a banker, we know that, as well as the hire. But when we club finance with this lease and contract with this hire, things become a bit interesting. So we will be discussing about that only. This particular video, we will have a discussion around the introduction part. Some introduction will be provided to you so that you can understand the basics. Then we will be moving towards the lease, fine, leasing in India. Also, we will be covering that. But initially, we will be talking about leasing in general. Then the evolution of leasing in our country, that is also important. Lastly, we will see the point of difference between the finance lease and the contract hire. So let's start our discussion with the introduction. See, for running a business, you need certain amount of capital, certain amount of initial investment. And when we talk about the business activities for which you need the particular investment, they can be plant and machinery, building, land, transportation equipment, or any other form of, you can say, assets which you can think of in order to produce the goods and services. So normally what happens, we take the loan from the bank, or for that matter, loan from certain investor, that is known as debt, or we can also share the ownership for those type of goods and services, or for that type of investment, which is known as equity. Plus, there can be a scenario where certain portion of the investment is given by the investor to you in the form of equity and remaining part in the form of debt. So mixture can also be done while investing in a particular business. And when we talk about the journal idea, how it is done, these can be acquired either using the capital funds, that is the equity, or borrowing from the various sources, which is known as debt. Funding can also be a mixture of both the equity as well as debt. And this mechanism, I hope that most of you have seen on the social media platforms also. One show is there in USA as well as now, though it is in India also, where there are 4 or 5 investors which are sitting. A particular individual business owner, he or she will walk into the room, to the hall, and pitch for the investment, that yes, they want certain kind of investment from these investors. And to that, the investors will reply that yes, this much equity we will be having in your business, we want this much equity in your business, or we will be providing you this amount as a debt, or for that matter, a mixture of equity as well as debt. Simply stated, that is also one of the form using which you can raise a capital, fine, both the mixture as well. But when I talk about finance lease and contract hire, are they a form from where you can extract certain capital or raise certain capital? Answer is yes. There are two other methods of acquiring the capital assets, be it the lease financing or the hire purchase. So simple, very, very simple terms, finance lease and contract hire, nothing fancy is there. But be sure, while having the point of difference, while we will discussing the point of difference between these two, you must be certain that yes, this type of setup is there for the rental payments, this type of setup is there for interest payment, and so on. So when I talk about the lease finance, it is what simply stated, a very simple example for the bankers out there. A customer walks in, fine, for the lease agreement only, I'm telling you what do we mean by lease in the bank. Customer walks in, wants to open a safe deposit account, fine. So as soon as this safe deposit account is opened for a particular customer, what you have done? You have entered into a lease agreement with that particular customer. You will say how? Because you are having the basic ownership on the land where your branch is running, and this ownership entails you the right of lease also. So you are providing certain part of your branch as a lease to the customer. Which part? The safe room, the locker area. And in the entire locker room, one particular locker has been provided on lease to a customer. Fine. So always remember the prime example of lessee lessor relationship in the bank will be opening up of a safe deposit locker. And in turn, what you have provided the safe deposit to the customer on lease, in turn you will be getting what? You will be receiving the annual rent, fine, annual rent from the customer's account. Okay. Similarly, you can have n number of lease agreements. But when I talk about the finance lease, how the things will work, there will be one owner, fine, one owner of the property will be there. Okay. And the other party, which is written here, it will be the buyer, or for that matter, a particular customer who wants to run their business on this property, on the property of this owner. So the customer and the owner, they will enter into a lease agreement. The customer will enjoy the ownership of the asset till a stipulated time period, whatever is defined in the lease agreement. Once this time period lapses, you will go towards the, you can say, the particular lease agreement will tilt towards the owner, and after this time period, the rights will be transferred to the right owner. Okay, so directly the ownership rights will go to the owner only, and the owner can subsequently go with some other customer also, or for that matter, the owner enjoys the absolute right. Like that, the finance lease works. When we talk about the basic definition, so leasing, it is a method of acquiring the right to use an equipment or asset for a consideration, resulting in the entrepreneur getting the right to use the asset. So simply stated, you are just using the asset. You are not the owner of the asset. Ownership right has not been transferred. Only the basic right of usage has been given to you by the owner via the lease agreement. That's it. A lease is a contract whereby the owner of an asset, the lessor as we know it, parts and passes on some exclusive right to use the asset. Find some right, not the entire ownership, for an agreed time period. So two things are important in the lease agreement. One, what part of the ownership has been transferred? What part of ownership means usage? Fine, you can use this particular land for whatever purpose you want. This is the first important thing. Second is the time period for which you can use. And in return, what the lessor will get, they will get a payment of a rent known as lease rental. That's it. Simply stated, this is the phenomena of lease. Now, when we talk about the capital assets, which are what? Land, building, equipment, machinery, vehicles, without which you won't be able to earn any profit in your business. That's why they are known as capital assets, the bare minimum assets which are required to run the business. They are usually the assets which are generally acquired on lease basis. And when we talk about the business activities, these land or buildings, equipment, machinery, vehicles, these are there so that you can have them on the lease basis. According to the finance lease, only these types of capital assets you can acquire on the lease basis. The lessor will remain the owner of the asset, but the possession and economic use of the asset. Asset means either the land or the building or the equipment, machinery or vehicle. It will be vested towards the customer or the lessee. Fine. So always remember, ownership rights are not transferred, but the usage rights will be transferred. Now let's talk about the evolution of leasing in our country. How leasing has evolved in the country. See, whenever we talk about the concept of lease, although it is an old concept, but the formal introduction of this concept in our country started off in the 1980s only. Fine. So the industry gathered strength and growth pace in late 1982 when numerous financial institutions and commercial banks either started their leasing or announced the plan to do so. When we talk about the most prominent partner or the most prominent party which has started this type of business in India, it was ICICI. Prominent among the financial institution entered the industry in 1983, giving the boost to the concept of leasing. And as you know that once a particular competitor enters into the market and sees certain profit, the other competitors will also join that league and they will also try to enter the same sector. Thereafter, the trickle soon developed into flood and leasing became the new boom. So more companies joined this particular sector. They wanted to have business in that particular sector because of the profits. This was also the time when the performance of two pioneering firms, First Leasing Company and 20th Century Finance Corporation. These two names are very, very important because these two firms, these two companies were made public by the government back then. So First Leasing Company and 20th Century Finance Corporation, they had been made public, which attracted many more companies to join the industry. And when we talk about why the companies are now more interested to join the sector of lease financing, because of the acknowledgement of the government. A particular firm has been made public. It means government also has faith in this type of business. Then one important, you can say, milestone was the joint ventures which started off with the LPG reforms. So IFC, that is International Finance Corporation, it announced its decision to open 4 leasing joint ventures in India. So there were 4 joint ventures signed between the IFC and the Indian firms, and thanks to that, the leasing business saw a huge growth in our country. When we talk about the stakeholders in the lease finance business, mostly government was there in the later part. Initially, it was supported by the private players only. And these private players, they were pretty much curious about the role of lease finance in the early era. And as soon as the finance ministry announced strict measures for enlistment of investment companies on stock exchange, one particular measure taken by the government of India so that they can eliminate corruption in the case of, you can say, stock exchanges or the securities market. So when we talk about the listed companies, the investment companies were forced, you can say, or they were regulated or directed by the government to get them listed on the stock exchanges. These investment companies, more or less within a quick time span, they converted themselves into leasing companies, fine, because of the profitability also, and because the regulatory measures were not that strict during the 90s era for the leasing company. Then we have a significant committee's role in the leasing finance of our country. Another significant phase in the development of Indian leasing was the GS Dahotre Committee's recommendation. See, GS Dahotre Committee, it recommended how the commercial banks will run this lease finance business. So GS Dahotre Committee's recommendation, based on which the RBI formed the guidelines for commercial banks funding the leasing companies. Fine. So how the commercial banks will be funding these leasing companies, that was decided by the RBI only after the recommendation of GS Dahotre. Always remember, in IFS subject, the committee's name as well as the chairman's name of that committee is very, very important. Direct question can be asked in the exam. Next, when we talk about the banks, now from here, the role of banks will increase, right? Because the regulator has also entered the market via regulations. Banks themselves were allowed to offer leasing facilities later in the year 1994. with the banks like SBI and Bank of India opening specialized branches for handling the lease financing. So specialized branches were opened by SBI as well as Bank of India back in 1994. After the liberalization era or the economic reforms era, uh, witnessed the slow but steady increase in the foreign investment into Indian leasing. So investments also started to come inside our country thanks to the boom of the leasing firms. Starting with the GE Capital's entry, an increasing number of foreign owned financial firms and banks are currently engaged and they are also interested to run the business of leasing in our country. So GE Capital started off the particular competition, and right now we have a number of leasing companies. Right. This was a brief introduction in the case of leasing finance and the evolution of that particular business activity in our country. Next, we have a direct comparison between lease finance and hire purchase. See, if you want elaborate discussion of hire purchase, we have dedicated courses for the same. Okay, like here you can see there is JAB Mahapack 2.0, which provides you one-stop solution for your exam needs, be it JIIB November 2025, or for that matter, the upcoming attempt also, because here the validity is 2x. Fine, validity is 2x, and you can use the validity for the upcoming cycles as well. Fine, the upcoming cycles will held in most probably next year, May or June. Fine, for that also you can prepare from today only. Why I'm saying, because currently we are offering huge discounts which you can avail using the coupon code, that is why 1003. This is the coupon code which you can apply and avail the maximum discounts. And when we talk about the Mahapack, it includes everything. Not only it includes the live classes but also the recorded videos of these live classes. Mock tests will also be there along with the full length test series. When we talk about the free PDFs, they will be also part of your curriculum, your particular package, plus doubt sessions. Real time doubt resolution is there in our classes, plus ebooks as well. And when we enter into the last stage of our preparation, last stage of exam preparation, you will have the revision batches also. So the excess of these revision batches will also be given to you in the form of crash course as well as the power pack revision batches. Okay, so yes, that is the most important batch or the most recommended batch from our side for all of you. Fine. Now coming back to the point of difference, for elaborate discussion on hire purchase, you can go to our courses via the paid batches. But here we will quickly try to distinguish between the lease finance and hire purchase. Let's just do it very quickly. When we talk about the meaning, the basic meaning of lease finance, everybody knows it now, that lease is what? It's just a transaction, and it is a commercial arrangement whereby equipment owner or the manufacturer conveys to the equipment user the right to use. Only the right to use has been provided against the rental amount. But here in the hire purchase, focus on this word purchase, the particular customer is ultimately purchasing via this particular setup. How? So hire purchase is a type of installment credit under which the hire purchaser agrees to take the goods on hire initially at stated rental, which includes the repayment using the principal as well as interest, with an option to purchase in the end. Once you fulfill the final installment, you can also purchase that particular asset. Options to the user in case of lease finance or leasing in general. There are various types of lease also. So except in financial lease, remaining types of lease, you have no option to purchase the goods. But when we talk about the hire purchase, in the hire purchase, the hire purchaser becomes the owner of the asset after paying the last installment. Right? That is very important to know. When I talk about the tax benefit or who can claim the depreciation and what is the nature of payment, that we will be studying in our paid classes. So there you can join the classes and have an elaborate discussion between these two aspects these two concepts based on various parameters. Fine. So see you all in the next session. If you have any kind of query, you can ask me in the comment section. And if you have any doubt related to the courses, this is the number 9819819 247, where you can directly call our team and they will get your doubts resolved in real time. Fine. So thank you everybody for attending the session. We'll meet in the next session. Till then, goodbye. Take care.